Have you ever been in a situation where at that very moment you say to yourself, what the heck were you thinking? Yeah, well, this was that exact moment for me.
In my last video, I was in Bali, Indonesia. In this video, I am in Tahoe, California. And I'm going to get back to the Bali, Indonesia coverage shortly. But because it's springtime and the snowboarding ski season is almost over, I thought that I would do a quick episode on snowboarding at Lake Tahoe. Spring skiing is the best. Well, not the best, but it's pretty darn good. It's mid-April and we're out here skiing. They got a ton of snow out here. So I just wanted to bring that to you and show you what spring skiing is about. So let's get into it.
This is me headed to the top of the mountain to ski down the wall. Does the wall sound like anything an intermediate boarder should be going down? Hold up. Maybe I should take you to the beginning to explain exactly how I got myself in this situation in the first place. It was the first run of the day, and I was pretty amped up. It had been a couple of months since I had been boarding. I was fresh off the recovery of an ankle injury from a motorcycle accident, so I was looking forward to going boarding one last time before the season ended.
That's good! Woo! Have a great run, guys. Enjoy! Happy Easter!
As soon as I sat down in the chair, it was on. It took no time to reach the top, and the wind was blowing pretty good that day. I had no idea that would play a factor in later events. I sat down to check my gear prior to my first run, and then I was ready. I did one last final check. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Please keep your seatbelt on at all times in case we experience rough air on the way down. The best part about snowboarding late in the season was it was hardly anyone out skiing, which meant that we pretty much had free reign of the resort. My favorite part was going through the gully. There was no one there, and it was simply a blast. Before I knew it, my first run was done, and I was ready for more. But it wasn't all fun and games. There were some pretty humiliating times as well. Did I tell you that moguls are not my friend? You are about to see why. Two things to remember when going down a steep mountain with an uneven surface: slow and steady. Unfortunately, that's often easier said than done.
Let's ease into it! Well, don't do that!
I was definitely having challenges. And of course, there were times where I just gave up. And then there was the terrain part. This is me on a box. Let's slow this down so we can get a good look. nice. Was nice. It was a pretty good day, but we couldn't end it there without going down the most challenging run of the resort, the wall.
You guys been down the wall before?
I have not.
Okay, it's a little steep. It's a little hard coming off the top, like might be icy from the wind blowing it off, but it's definitely pretty mogully coming down from the top to the bottom. So the first 200 yards is going to be a big mogul field, but if you keep a good edge, you'll be all set.
Okay.
Clue number 1 should have been the skull and bones sign that I somehow missed prior to going on the chair. Clue number 2 should have been the fact that they were briefing me prior to going up. That's not normal. Nonetheless, I ignored all the signs and ignorantly went up this expert run. I had no idea what I was in store for, which explains why I wasn't the least bit nervous at the time. In the beginning, the ride to the top was no different than any other run I had been on earlier in that day. But slowly, as we made our way up, I began to realize this run might be a bit more challenging. For one thing, there were fewer skiers here than there were on the other runs. On the way up, I started to understand exactly why it was called the wall. Each moment we moved closer to the top, the more intimidating it became. And the trees were sideways. I don't know why, but that added to the anxiety. Almost there, things suddenly started to get real. I then realized that there was no turning back at this point. And all of a sudden, the terrain changed. Did I mention to you that moguls are not my friend? There were a ton of moguls. They kind of reminded me of a crater-faced kid with really bad acne. To add to that effect, the wind began to kick up. The moguls were huge. This was definitely not a good idea. There was so much snow that the chair barely cleared it because of how much there was. As we reached the top, the moment of truth had finally arrived. I was about to find out exactly how good a boarder I was. Welcome to the wall. I wonder why they built that fence on top of the mountain. It's not so bad up here. Look at that! A skull and bones flag. Cool. I took my time before I readied myself to go down. I was cramping up from boarding all day and was trying to give my muscles a chance to relax. On the way up, it looked like there were less moguls on the far right of the mountain, so I made my way there. Remember that fence I was wondering about? Well, I quickly found out exactly what the purpose of it was for. The wind at the top was fierce, and as soon as I passed the fence, the wind immediately began to blow me towards the edge of the wall. Half strapped into my board, it was difficult to move. More and more, it was beginning to look like it wasn't a good idea to go any further, and as if I didn't already make enough bad decisions for that day, I made yet another when I decided to take my board off and walk to where I needed to be. As soon as I picked up my board, the wind blew it from my hands. I quickly grabbed it before it went down the mountain without me. Clearly, this wasn't the best place to be. I decided to make my way up to the rock ahead and hunker down until I figured out what to do. While walking there, the wind blew me closer and closer to the edge of the wall. The nervousness started to kick in. As soon as I looked over the edge, I quickly realized that this wasn't the place to start my trip down the wall, and yet it started to look like this was the place the mountain had chose for me to go down. I hunkered down and tried to collect myself. Once I did, I decided to make my way back to that nice fence that caught my attention when I first arrived. On my way back, it was then that I noticed the skull and bones sign which said experts only. I had to fight my way back to the fence, and my board was working against me because I had taken it off and was hand carrying it. I I tried to turn it into the wind to minimize the amount of surface that was being blown upon. Finally, I had made it back. I had never been so happy to see such a fence. I dropped my board and set my ass down as I tried to figure out my next move. As I contemplated what to do next, I came to the conclusion that I was capable of conquering this challenge. I just needed to find the right line down and I would be good. I took a lengthy amount of time to watch the other skiers go down. The people I observed going down didn't look the least bit nervous. I was clearly out of my element. After watching them, I decided that I was ready to make my move. I started my way down. It was a combination of a cat digging its claws into a couch as it tries not to be pulled away and a snowplow down the mountain. I took it nice and easy down the face because should I fall, I was going down and I wasn't stopping. This video does not do justice to just how intense the experience was. Between the cramps and my progression down the mountain, I took a second to look up and just appreciate the ginormous cliff I just traversed down. And then it happened. At the apex of the entire day, my camera died. I did have my camera phone, but I didn't want to take the chance of losing it should I fall.
So Josh just talked me into going down this expert double black diamond run. Took me 30 minutes to get the courage to go down the face. It was freaking intense, but I did it. The hard part is over. Now I just need to get to the parking lot in one piece and get the heck out of here.
Moving on to the next section of this double black diamond run, things were looking a little suspicious. I did eventually successfully make it down and swore to myself never again, but you know how that goes.
See what that says? That says experts only, and they mean that. You should adhere to these signs. I went up this chair and took this double black diamond run. It took me an hour to get down, so take heed to the signs.